Hello everyone and welcome to our very first vlog from our Women in Tech workstream. My name is Charlotte Tunbridge and I'm the HR lead for the workstream, and I'm super proud to be here today with these amazing women discussing this very important topic. Off the back of International Women's Day, we wanted to continue the discussion on embracing equity. So in this panel today, we are speaking with just some of our inspirational women at RSA who are all part of the Women in Tech workstream. Today, we'll be discussing their journeys into tech, what hurdles they faced along the way, and what advice they would give to any women considering or currently pursuing a career in technology. Just as a side note, some of the content today may be emotive or triggering for some as our panel talk about their experiences. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to our panel to introduce themselves and just talk a little bit about why this topic is important to them. Trish, I'll start with you.
Thanks, Charlotte. Hi everyone, I'm Tricia Deane and I'm the Head of Enterprise Architecture here at RSA. I am very passionate about women in technology and particularly women in architecture. There's not very many of us, certainly in RSA and also within the financial industry and insurance in particular. So I'm very keen to look at how we can bring women into our architecture function.
Definitely. And I've experienced that when we're looking at recruitment, how difficult it is to get traction into that enterprise or solution architecture space as females. So yeah, well done, Trish, and flying the flag for us all there. Robyn, I'll hand over to you.
Hi, so I'm Robyn Keogh, Head of Modern Workplace, which is essentially all things Microsoft 365, and I sit within the Cloud Centre of Excellence. So similar to Tricia, we don't have too many women in the world of cloud computing, and we're definitely keen to get more people on board and working with us.
Yeah, absolutely. We're starting to sort of build that little Cloud Centre of Excellence as a domain, and it's great to see you kind of building your little empire out there. So yeah, I look forward to seeing how that flourishes for sure. And Roha, last but finally not least, over to yourself.
Hi, my name's Roha, and I'm a security engineer and I work within the cybersecurity function within RSA. For me, women in tech is really important because I'm right at the start of my career, and it's really important for me to look up and see other women in leadership positions and aspire to be like them. And I also know how powerful it can be when we gather as a group of women to empower one another.
100%. And within cyber and CISO, there's definitely a lack of female representation within that area as well. So definitely a lot of work to be done there. Absolutely. So thank you all for introducing yourself. So all of our viewers can get a sense of who you are and where you sit within the organisation. So I'm just going to sort of dive into the discussion now so we can really kick that off. So I'm sure all of you have got such different and interesting stories. I know some of you are quite embryonic in your career, some of you have a bit more experience, but talking about your journey into technology, where did it start? Was it always something you were passionate about? Because I remember when I was at school, I think it was like ICT or something, and I mean, I couldn't have never imagined of the world of technology that we're in now. So, it'd be interesting to hear how that came about for you. Trish, do you want to start on that?
Yeah, I can do. I think I'm the oldest of the bunch here, so I actually started my IT career later. I first went into the workplace in travel, and so I didn't, work for a technology company. It was just doing travel. I'm working for airlines, and I actually got asked to resolve a particular issue, and it meant me building an access database. So that tells you how long ago it was. And I was that gave me the bug. Oh, I can problem solve with some technology. And I built this access database, and my boss at the time was so pleased that she sent me off to do some training on IT, and that's really where I got the bug. And then I also used to get asked to fix the printer and all sorts of stuff. And from then I thought, right, okay, I really like tech. Where do I go? Because I come from a travel background and an airline background in particular. So then I actually got a role with a global software company for travel. So, and that was great because I went in and these are the days of MS-DOS. and Windows 3.11 and Novell file server. That's a long time ago. Some people who listen to this may recognise that tech. That's when I really got the bug. I was working on the help desk, and then I progressed through to account management, looking after our big customers. One of them was American Express. And then the technology bug was an interest was growing and growing. And I had the opportunity to join Microsoft. And to me, at that time, Microsoft, and it still is, was the nirvana of software. And I had 10 years at Microsoft, starting off doing technical account management. So I had to be certified, had to be MCSE'd, as they called it. And again, developed my skill set there and developed into an enterprise architect role. And therefore, I was just working with all sorts of different customers using Microsoft technologies. And as Microsoft progressed into cloud computing in those days, it was in the infancy, and I was able to be involved with that. So and I've never looked back. And I left Microsoft to go contracting, and spent 10 years at all sorts of different organisations, mainly insurance organisations. And here I am at RSA.
And wow, what a journey. And all started from you fixing or creating an Access database. I mean, how did you even know to do that? Because if someone asked me to do that, I'd be like, sorry, what?
Well, well, it was research, really, and just a bit of guidance from the IT folk that were available to me. And it was great. And I think, from that small piece of work, problem solving with technology, that is really what technology does. It helps problem solve it, and it helps enable businesses. So
and thinking about when you started to really start to embrace your journey into technology, in terms of that female representation, was there a lot? Did you look around and you could see other women and you felt that there was like a sense of belonging for you, or did you really feel like you stuck out like a sore thumb?
So when I joined Microsoft, and being a technical account manager, the community was split 50-50.
Oh, wow, okay.
But when I moved into the enterprise architect role, I was one woman in a team of 50. So there's 49 guys and me.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And how did that make you feel?
At Microsoft, and Microsoft, they were at that time, and still are, very forward in diversity and inclusion. But that's what it was. I was so excited when another female joined the team.
Oh my goodness. And like, how did that make you feel, like literally being one woman in a team of 49 men? I can imagine that was like quite overwhelming.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I grew up with two brothers, so I'm used to having a lot of male company, but 49 others with egos. So it was challenging, and there were challenging times and behaviours that really weren't acceptable, which at the time I had a very supportive manager, so I could feedback on those behaviours that were not appropriate, and then they were dealt with. So that's the thing, when you are a minority, you don't necessarily feel that you can share people's misgivings and their behaviours, and it still goes on today, but I think organisations are more in tune to it now.
Yeah, absolutely. I can completely hear what you're saying, and that sounds really overwhelming. Thanks, Trish. That was fascinating. Robyn, so sort of same to you, like how was your journey into technology, and talk to us about that, where it started.
Of course. So my journey into technology just began out of interest, really, an interest that I developed during my time at university, where I hadn't gone in to study technology at all. I actually went in to study international business. And while I enjoyed learning about the joys of accounting and economics and finance, I was actually more drawn to the role that technology played in those
Okay.
industries, and particularly interested in how it was really transforming how businesses were operating and how it could be leveraged then to drive more efficiencies or create new
Yeah.
opportunities. And I suppose I was studying at a time where technology was really beginning to hold its own and be seen as a really important facet of business and an enabler. So I suppose that led me down the path of trying to find a job in technology coming out of university.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to secure a role that was called business IT analyst. So it was a little bit of both. I kind of, I suppose, bluffed my way in on my business knowledge, but really with an interest to get further into the IT side of things. And from there, I went through a variety of roles, business analyst, then project manager, technical solutions advisor, and really just started to, I suppose, delve deeper into the technical side, just through experience and learning from others on the team. I think I was really lucky in the teams that I've been a part of, that I've
Yeah.
had some really great role models and really great managers that allowed me to explore further and further the technology side of things. Eventually, I then became an IT consultant, working with clients. And I suppose it was at that point where I kind of engaged with more financial services industry, insurance industry, which I suppose is how I ended up here at RSA eventually, found my way here. So yeah, I suppose it's not really a traditional one, probably similar to Tricia, and I don't
Yeah.
think really anyone, a lot of people in technology seem to have just found our way here out of interest and kind of pursuing that interest. But I think I've definitely kind of found my passion in tech.
And it's such a bold move to go and study something that's, like international business, and then to go, well, actually, I kind of like tech, so I'm going to do that. Like, how did you even find that fire inside of you, knowing that minority is a male dominated industry? How did you just, was there a prep talk? Was there like, no, I can do this? Because yeah, like that, it's just fascinating that you've gone in one thing and then you've just gone, no, I'm going to do this, and you've gone and you've succeeded, and you're still doing it today.
Yeah, I suppose it didn't really cross my mind that it was a male-dominated field. When I kind of had an interest there, I just continued to pursue it.
Yeah.
Within my studies, there was always opportunity to look at, I suppose, the very beginnings of like digital marketing, website creation, and I suppose I just latched on to those small, tiny bits of tech within the studies
Yeah.
I could do, and then tried to then pursue that in greater detail. But definitely didn't really cross my mind, I suppose, until the first day of work when you're sitting in a room surrounded by male colleagues. I suppose I was very, very lucky. In my first role, I had a female IT director, and that's the one and
Amazing.
only female IT director I've come across in my whole career. But to
Wow.
be, to have her as a role model, because as my first real job, it was fantastic.
Wow, absolutely. I was going to say we're still seeing a bit of a lack of representation, especially at that female senior level, where we're definitely better than we used to be. But to have that so early on in your career, sounds like that's something you definitely needed for sure. And Roha, I know you mentioned earlier that you're in sort of a different part in your career. So I know that you're a lot more embryonic. So talk to us about sort of how you managed to get into cyber.
My journey into tech just happened. Like, it was like the biggest accident that ever happened. I'd applied for speech and language therapy at university, and on results day, I just sat there and I thought, I really don't care about this, and I just don't think I'm going to enjoy it. Like, I don't even know why I've applied for this. And I just went through the clearing phase at university, and I just said, like my whole family, everybody were just on it trying to find me a course that I would enjoy doing. And then I came across a degree called computer security. At that time, it was called computer security with forensics, and I had no idea what it was. No clue.
Wow.
I started doing some research. I spoke to some of the lecturers at the university, called them, and I just took a leap of faith. And yeah, I just went for it and hope for the best.
And did you even know what cyber was at that point?
No,
Like,
it wasn't even called cyber. It was called computer security. It wasn't called cyber for at least a year and a half into my degree. It was like cybersecurity internships just didn't exist. I remember the first year I was looking around thinking, like, what have I gotten myself into? There's nothing cyber related. But it just took time for the industry to evolve, and you know, here I am today.
that's crazy to literally go from language and speech
Yeah.
to then cyber or computer security. Like, there's no intrinsic link anywhere between them two sort of educational or sort of thought processes. And like, did you ever feel at any point like, what am I doing here? Did you feel like a sense of imposter syndrome? We hear that a lot as women. You tend to hear it more from women than you do from men. But did you feel like that? Did you feel like, oh my goodness, have I made a mistake?
Yeah, I struggled. I struggled. The first year was probably the hardest year of uni for me.
Really?
And it's because even my A levels were like nothing remotely related to IT. I even went through a phase where I think 6 months in, I went to my lecturer and I was like, I'm done. I hate this. I want to drop out. And I think the imposter syndrome doesn't ever really go away. Like, I've spoken to so many people across different industries in some very senior positions, and I think that just always stays. And mine has definitely never gone. It's just always there, and I think it's just I'm better equipped to fight it now, I suppose, and tell myself otherwise. But at that stage in kind of my journey into tech, it was a massive struggle. Really struggled.
And staying on that sort of theme of imposter syndrome and overcoming hurdles, because I've been to various women in tech festivals, and obviously I business partner CIO, so I work really closely with a lot of our sort of female technologists, and it seems to be something that always crops up. Even on, you know, very senior, there is still this element of imposter syndrome. So Trish, you know, thinking about where you started off and that Access database, like, you know, how did you overcome them hurdles? Did you meet any hurdles along the way? I know you spoke about that you were definitely subjected to some behaviour that wasn't nice, but did you ever have that element of imposter syndrome? And, you know, how did you overcome that as well to make sure that you're confident or you feel confident?
I think as women, we always feel like we have to prove ourselves. So it's always about, you know, we want to establish our credibility. And I think we feel, and we end up doing more to get to that point than we actually need to. I think, as Roha has said, there's always a level of, am I good enough?
Yeah.
And I don't think that ever goes away. It doesn't matter how experienced you are. But I would say I have seen that in some males as well. So
yeah, definitely.
I think it's but I know it is generally women do talk about it more, especially when you're in a male-dominated environment. We always seem to have to prove ourselves even more so and do more than our male counterparts. And I did definitely feel that as the only woman amongst 49 other men. That is for sure.
Wow. Well, there's a spotlight, isn't there? And
that's right. And also because I didn't have a degree. So I'm a woman in tech who's worked hard to get where she got, and I didn't have a degree. So why are you here? Well, I'm here. So you either, you know, you need to accept that.
Yeah.
And move on. So yeah.
No, it's so important what you were saying about that men have it too, because I'm really lucky enough to business partner some wonderful people, both men and women, in a senior IT position. And, you know, some of the men have been quite honest and said, like, you know, I definitely do have imposter syndrome, but I don't think I think there's a bit of a lack of being comfortable about talking about that, right? And I think as women we probably are a little bit more tapped into speaking about this, and maybe have more platforms where there is that support mechanism. But it's really interesting.
And I think probably because we feel it the most.
Yeah.
And we can empathise with our fellow female colleagues, especially in technology. So that's probably why we're very comfortable in talking about it.
Absolutely. And Robyn, I know obviously you said that you didn't really feel that level of spotlight on you until sort of the first day of your job. So in terms of like them hurdles and how you overcome them and that imposter syndrome, like, you know, have you experienced that? Has there been some difficult hurdles you've had to overcome?
Yeah, of course. I think everybody feels it to varying extents, and it can just depend on what project you're on, and it doesn't even necessarily need to be a new role. Sometimes it can just creep up on you. So I think it is important to just take a step back and acknowledge it, and then reflect on the fact that you're in the room for a reason. I suppose the hurdles I'd face on a day-to-day basis would just be being the only woman in the room sometimes. And while that's not necessarily a hurdle, it does sometimes kind of put that spotlight on you or make you feel a little bit different to the norm. Actually, out of like curiosity before coming on the call today, I did a quick count of all the meetings that I'd been on in the past week where I was the only woman, just because I was quite curious, and it actually turned out to be 14 meetings, which is quite significant within a week. So you're talking about at least, you know, 3 a day. So I would really love for that to change. And I hope that it does. And I think it is. Since I've started my career, I've started noticing that there are more women in every pocket of IT, but I think it's definitely something we can be doing better.
That's that's crazy. 14 meetings. And I think that in terms of trying to get more women into technology, you know, sometimes people find comfort in commonality, right? So the more women that we see, the more comfortable that place will be for new women coming in or women wanting to pursue a career in technology. And, you know, this is why this is so important today in this topic and that we speak about, because, you know, it's okay to have that level of vulnerability, but it's also okay to want to better that and evolve, right? So yeah, no, that's that I can't believe it, 14. I'm a bit speechless about that. So probably one more for you, Trish and Robyn, in the instance, but Roha, this is definitely going to be relevant to you as well, because I know you've been on your own journey. But in terms of, you know, looking back to your earlier career or your earlier self, sort of looking at where you want to direct yourself in your career, like, you know, what advice would you give yourself now? Would you do anything different? Would you, you know, would you change anything, or are you quite comfortable with sort of how that's mapped out for you? Trish, I'll start with you.
Yes, I'm happy with how it's mapped out.
Yeah.
I sometimes wonder that if I'd gone to university, would I have got to this place quicker?
Right.
Because at university, the computer science degrees, you know, are amazing, and the knowledge you gain through that. So I always wonder that. And advice I would give to my younger self would be speak up more. Because it's you can very easily be silenced as a lone woman in a room full of 49 men. So when I look back to that time, I didn't speak up as much as I should have wanted to, etc. And I think sometimes that comes with age, which I don't think is necessarily right. I think, you know, we should all be able to speak up. I think as I've got older, you know, your confidence does increase. But you know, that's probably the advice I would have given to my younger self is you know what you're talking about, speak up.
Like back yourself, have confidence. And that's so hard, isn't it? That's such a hard pill to swallow when you look back on yourself and you think, oh, I wish I'd done this and I wish I'd done that. But it's so important that you're honest about that, because that advice might help someone else who's feeling the way that you felt.
And that goes with regards to anything, whether it's about a piece of work, whether it's about behaviours, you know, anything. You know, that's the advice I would give to my younger self. And, you know, to women on this journey with their career today, always speak up for yourself. You're there for a reason. Be proud of that, and you know, speak up when you feel it's appropriate.
Absolutely. And Robyn, what, you know, would you give yourself, your early career self? I don't like to say younger self, because none of us are old, but you know, would there be anything that you would give yourself looking back? Any separate different advice or?
Yeah, I think again, make sure that you speak up, and never say no to yourself or tell yourself that you can't do something. I think
Yeah.
there's enough people out there that will say no to you. So just make sure that you are not the one that's saying no to yourself and closing those
Wow.
doors. So whether that be applying for a role, making sure that you actually do apply if you think that you'll enjoy it and that your broad experience fits. Don't say because your experience doesn't match line by line, don't tell yourself no, just go and do it. And I probably would give the advice of just making the most of every opportunity presented to you, and make sure that you focus on the job learning in your day to day, because I think that's where you make up the bulk of your experience. And
Yeah,
there's no need to
definitely.
rush, just whatever comes your way, make the most out of it. And you'll be surprised where certain little pockets of projects and skill sets that end up leading you.
It's so funny that you say that, because there's definitely an element of, and this has been statistically proven when we look at sort of female applicants, that you find statistically females are more likely to not apply for a role if it isn't line for line.
Yeah.
There isn't a match. So if they only sort of match 50% of the job role, they're more likely to not apply for it and shy away from it. And there's just that element of like self-sabotage almost, isn't it? I think it links intrinsically back to that sort of imposter syndrome thing, doesn't it? So yeah, there's the more we talk about that, the better. Absolutely. And Roha, I know that, like you said, you're a bit more earlier on in your career, but is there anything, you know, any advice that you would give to yourself or to anyone else? Because like your journey from speech and then to cyber, and then like, it's been quite a busy one, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the advice I'd give to someone starting off their career would be kind of, and I think this is actually based on recent discovery,
Yeah.
is just be true to yourself. Like, in order to be successful, you don't have to change who you are. And if you don't enjoy something, that's fine. Like, there is so much more out there, and life is too short to be unhappy. And I look up and there's a quote on my wall and it says, growth and comfort don't coexist. And that's something that I have there, that when I'm having a bad day, I just look at that and think, if I want to grow, I have to be uncomfortable, and just being okay with that.
Yeah, there's a quote that you get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really prevalent in this situation, isn't it? That all three of you have been in quite uncomfortable situations at times, and you've almost had to climatize to being uncomfortable because it's what you want, it's the career that you want, and that's overcoming that within itself is quite significant for sure. So in terms of like flipping the perspective just a little bit, so in terms of women who might be looking, you know, watching this vlog, or men who have got younger daughters or wife or sisters who are watching this vlog and have a career in technology, or maybe are wanting to pursue a career in technology, like what advice would you give to them? Robyn, I'll start with you.
I would just say technology is such an incredibly exciting place to work, and really does change daily. I think from what all three of us have said today, you can see that when we all started out our careers, the jobs that we have now probably didn't exist, or at least not in the same form. So it really is changing all the time. So if anything catches your eye in the technology space, just go for it. And make sure that you keep an eye out for the other areas of technology too, because things really do change on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it must be quite daunting to have a career in something else and then all of a sudden be like, well, I am interested in technology, and there must be this level of almost this level of anxiety that comes with it, that, well, am I good enough? Who's going to give me that big break, for example? So no, that's really good advice. And Trish, what about you? What advice would you give to you know, women currently pursuing or wanting to maybe have a career change into technology?
If you've got an interest in tech, for me, that's it. Just go for what you want.
Yeah.
and certainly in architecture, it's perceived to be a role that you need to be experienced in. That is changing, and I'm happy to chat to anyone who's got an interest in tech and an interest in technology enabling the business and problem solving. I think just go for it. If you've got a role that you're interested in, just go for it, because even if you're not successful that time around, you're going to learn from that process, and you will get guidance about what you possibly should go learn or go develop in, so you can get the role next time around. So never give up. Just because your first time you're not successful, don't give up on that, because to Robyn's point, there's going to be something else that you're probably are very skilled to do and will be interested in.
That's really good advice, isn't it? And I love the little shameless plug, like, come speak to me. Love that. So if anyone's listening who wants some advice, you've heard it from Tricia Deane herself, please do reach out. And this is the reason for this work stream, right, is to support women, whether they're in technology or wanting to get into technology. Roha, what about yourself? What advice would you give to women in a similar situation or wanting a career change?
I think for me, it's really short and sweet. Is like, you can do it, have faith in yourself. And I think as women, we have so much power to have such an impact. So just trust yourself, trust the process.
Absolutely. I mean, if you can go from speech therapy and language to cyber, like that's a testament within itself, isn't it? So I'm going to start to draw on a close of the discussion, but I guess one last thing that I'm really interested in is, RSA, we're an insurance company. We are going through a bit of, a huge transformation in terms of our technology. What is it that's exciting you currently about that journey? Was there anything about RSA in particular that, that sort of got you interested? Because a lot of you have come from like Microsoft, KPI, big sort of technology companies. So sort of why RSA at the time? Trish, I'll start with you.
So I worked at RSA 12 years ago as a contractor.
Wow.
Yeah, so I kind of knew RSA, and when the role came up to be head of enterprise architecture, I'll be honest, where I was like, oh, RSA, because I remember them from 12 years ago and all the legacy tech that we have. And then when I was told of the new leadership and the transformation journey that we're on, I was like, yes, please. And it's so exciting to be here. There's so much going on, and there's so many opportunities to influence change in the right way. So that's why I wanted to be here. And I love insurance. I've done lots of insurance work throughout my career. So and people are nice in insurance. I've done some investment banking. People are nice in that area. So I like it. People in insurance, we're nice.
Amazing. And we are really lucky to have you. Like, I think I always bleat on about how rare it is to get a head of VA as a female, who's not just a female, but who's a really good head of VA as well. So thank you. We're super chuffed to have you on board. I know you've been here for a while now, but
6 months now.
Robyn, what was it about in terms of, I know that we've got the new Cloud Centre of Excellence department that we're building out, and modern, the modern workforce and all of the planning that comes with that, again, is something that's been quite new, but obviously very, very important and critical to RSA as well. So, what was it? Was it the role that came up, or what was it that sparked your interest in RSA?
Well, it was definitely the role itself, but also that commitment from senior leadership now that we're seeing in transforming the way technology is used in RSA, and just the, I suppose, appetite for change and enthusiasm that we're seeing across the board from the wider CIO. It's just a really interesting place to be at the moment, and having this new cloud center of excellence being built up is just, it's a great thing to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like that role, and then obviously to do that in a cloud function as well is probably a quite a niche opportunity, isn't it?
Definitely. And I think it's predominantly just been accelerated by our drive to pursue hybrid ways of working, and to make sure that we're all being able to complete our jobs regardless of location in a secure and efficient manner. And I think, as I kind of said before, the fact that we are seeing the commitment from senior leadership in RSA to invest in these areas really makes a difference. And it really shows that this is the way we want to, the path we want to go down as a company.
Absolutely. And Roha, I know you've I think you've been with us about a year now, but you originally came from Sainsbury's, didn't you? And I know that they're extremely established in terms of their women in tech and the work stream. So, just got to shout out how invaluable you've been as part of the work stream to bring that perspective from coming from such a already sort of like established women in tech workstream company to RSA. But I know that you've been part of the workstream now for a year, and have you enjoyed being part of the workstream? Is it something that you felt like has added value to yourself?
I think so. I think what I love about RSA is that everyone has the right intentions and they all really want to do the right thing. And that's rare. I think you don't always see that in companies. And I think with the Women in Tech work stream, there's a genuine desire to make things better. And like, I've just met so many amazing women and they all just want to make a difference. And they're really passionate about women in tech. And some days that's been enough to get me through the day, like just knowing that I'm going to catch up with this group of women and they're just going to be so passionate about getting more women in, and it's very enlightening.
It's lovely. And before I close the call, firstly, I just want to thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to talk about not only your careers and your journeys, but talking about some stuff that's quite sensitive and quite personal to you. I know it's not easy, so thank you for talking about that and being open and honest. And similarly, this is just a bit of a shameless plug that if anyone is interested in the Women in Tech work stream or would like to speak to any of our amazing women on the panel here today about anything that we've discussed, please feel free to reach out. And over and out from us. Thank you. We hope you enjoyed the vlog and watch this space so you'll see us all again very soon. Bye.